Right.
Balancing
And
office
that's kind
costs
of what
and real
I want to
diversity
do.
in tech is
Yeah,
tougher
well,
than it
I mean,
sounds.
here from corporate perspective, I sometimes like to play devil's advocate, right? Is if I'm a company and I have leased all this space
Yeah,
downtown,
that's my next question I was bringing up. Yeah,
yeah,
all this real
right,
estate,
right,
you're
right,
paying literally probably millions of dollars in real estate.
right.
It's like just emptiness.
Right, like, do I shut parts of my office down? Do I keep it open,
Do you
right?
break
Or
the
do I force
lease?
everybody to come back, right? Like, do I I don't know what lease agreements look like, right?
Mhm.
But, like, there are things that need to be considered from a corporate profitability perspective. Not
Yeah,
again, like, I'm not a hardline corporate profit person necessarily, right? Like, clearly work, a lot in that space, so I understand the value, but, like, I also understand, like, the reasons they have to make some of those decisions, and I think that needs to be considered as well, you know? Um
yeah. Are there any tech startups out there that you're working with that like really excites you?
I've I'm still excited about the tech space. There are certain things in the tech community, particularly in Seattle, that I'm not really excited about. Right, like the things that like really hold my attention are more so uh, startups or companies that work in social impact space. Right, like if you have the ability to create positive impact in those communities that you operate within. Right, like there are some that are I'd rather not answer that question, because I don't want to leave organizations or companies out, um, that I know are doing good work. But there are a lot. I think Seattle's one thing I love about Seattle is it's a very innovative community, right? I think there are people that are innovative and looking to solve problems. I also do think like there's one thing about nonprofits that, like, I think maybe bothers me is that they all like to operate like nonprofits, like they were built in 1910s, right? Like, there isn't a need to operate that way necessarily, right? Like, you can be like the only difference between a nonprofit and a for-profit is tax status, right? If you have a business model, you can run your business as any other company does. One of the major differences is you got to be public about what you do with the money that you earn, right? And I do feel like, there are social impact for-profit organizations that are doing great work that I don't think I think they think differently than a lot of nonprofits because they don't bound themselves by the red tape that they feel like they need to be bound by, right? So I appreciate the people that are innovating in that space.
All right, let me reroll the question then. If
Yeah.
you had $1 million, what tech startup would you invest in?
Wow. That's tough. Actually, I don't know. Like, I think I started answering the question, by saying I started getting more like I'm more passionate about like social impact ventures than even a lot of tech startups. Say that like I've kind of taken my eye off like
Okay.
the tech startups in Seattle, right? Like I'm aware just because the work I even do with WTIA, I'm in just things that I'm naturally like passionate and curious about. It's just, like I just don't follow it nearly as closely as I have. There are startups that get referred to me often. I'll look into them and find out more about what they're doing. But like I don't know if there's a particular startup that like I'm like in the Seattle area that I'm like super interested in. Not to say that there aren't any interesting startups here, right? But I'm just
Okay.
yeah.
So next, let's talk about diversity in tech, right?
Mhm.
So I got involved in tech startup like maybe 2014, 2015, right?
Yeah.
Diversity in tech has always been a big thing, right?
Mhm.
And I could be wrong. There's all these initiatives like focus on it. But if you look at the stats, that's like the stats are getting any better, right? It's like the stats are actually might even be getting worse, right?
Mm.
Why do you think that is, right?
I mean, candidly speaking, I think if you're going to focus on diversity, it means work. And I found that companies prioritize profitability, right? And if it's not something that they can like tangibly connect to profitability, then they'll say all the right things, but like, are they really going to do the right things, right? Like, are they really going to do the things that like are needed to change stuff, right? Like you saw 2020 happened, and companies made commitments to become diverse and to bring in consultants, the EI consultants, which I'll reference back to what I said earlier, that like consultants are there to provide advice. It's the company's job to listen to advice and take action, right?